Commissioners. This is Troy, your host. We are live and recording.
Troy, thank you for that. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Tuesday, October 28th Board of County Commissioners Land Use Meeting and Public Hearing. If you'll all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Attorney Garcia, do we have certification of the agenda today?
You do, sir. The county attorney's office reviewed the item on the agenda. This item has been posted appropriately, and you have appropriate jurisdiction over this matter.
Great, thank you. And do any commissioners have disclosures for items on this agenda?
No, sir.
Okay, I don't either. So with that, we'll move to item 2, our land use meeting agenda items. There are no items submitted for land use. So we'll move on to item 3, our public hearing agenda items. And we have an item 3A, the Pinery Plan Development 31st Amendment, Major Plan Development Amendment, project file ZR 2023-002. And we have Mike Pasica, a principal planner, presenting for staff. Mike?
Thank you, Commissioner Layden. Mike Pasica representing Planning Services. And the request before you this afternoon is the Pinery PD 31st Amendment. The project number is ZR 2023-002. This item was tabled at the July 22nd, 2025 BCC hearing. Kristen Decker and Russell Hall, manager of Pinery 40 LLC, are here on behalf of the owner to present the changes to the PD since the July hearing. The board directed July 22nd tabling to allow the applicant to meet with the neighboring property owners and homeowner associations and attempt to address comments and concerns. The applicants revised the proposed amendment with the intent of addressing comments from the board and the public. The applicant will present the changes, which include 3 planting areas and 38 residential lots. The assessment of the approval criteria and suggested conditions of approval in the original staff report remain unchanged. This is the CMV vicinity map. The red star shows the general location of the request. As a refresher, the proposed PD amendment is within the Pinery Plan Development, which is located in the Pinery Separated Urban Area of the CMP, and it's located east of Highway 83 and north of Bayou Gulch Road. This concludes staff presentation. I can take comments from the board. Otherwise, I will turn it over to the applicant. They have a presentation to make this afternoon.
Great, thank you, Mike. Any questions for staff?
No questions.
No questions.
Okay, I don't have any questions either. We'll invite the applicant up to provide their presentation, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Tom Raganetti. I'm here with my colleague and partner, Kristen Decker, and we represent the applicant. I'm here really to set some context and to talk about the history of this property, which I happen to know personally. And I'm almost embarrassed to say how long I've known it. I started working in the Pinery in 1978, and we worked on and off through the late 70s and the 80s until the point in the 80s when a Canadian development company was thinking about acquiring the 5th filing of the Pinery that hadn't been developed at all and wanted to re-entitle it for higher end, fancier homes and more opulent developments. And we worked on that from the late 80s to the mid 90s. The reason I mention this is the county was a very different place. It had a very different landscape in this area at that point in time. It was much more rural. When you got to the south end of the Pinery, it made perfect sense to think about equestrian uses there, which of course Helen Kriebel, formerly the Helen Fuscus, thought about. You would have been looking at surroundings that were ideal for equestrian development and equestrian estates, and something like the horse park that she did. As you go forward, though, for the next 30, 35 years, things have changed dramatically, and actually, in many ways, for the better. What you have now, instead of a ranch-type environment on three sides of this property, you have very nice mid-density, medium-density suburbs. And that's not a criticism. I mean, these are as nice a set of suburbs as you'll find anywhere in the United States, and certainly in Douglas County. The homes are beautiful. The landscaping is lush and manicured. It's as well carried out as any development could be. And it is a delightful place, no matter which way you look, as you go north, as you go south, as you go east and west. This is a great place to live. But it's fundamentally different than the equestrian surroundings that Helen Fuscus built into in the early 80s. What she was looking at was a ranch, and she was going to put her horse park there, and she was hoping for one of the most elite and opulent horse facilities or equestrian facilities in the country. Well, it's still there. It's a little long in the tooth. It's commercial now. It's a large animal vet clinic, and it's surrounded by what I think are some of the prettiest suburbs I've seen in a long time. And the essential nature of the development around the property in question has changed. For things to be compatible with what's there today, you would be looking at something like the applicants have proposed and reproposed, which is a set of lots on which similar homes, similar landscaping can be done and carried out with the same elegance and the same thoughtfulness as the development that's already there. I would tell you that not only have the conditions changed, but I'm not sure that anyone has really thought through what it would mean if you had the current zoning addressed and carried out the way it is currently zoned with so-called equestrian estates. I mean, equestrian estates has a wonderful upper class sound to it, but the reality of an equestrian estate, no matter how beautiful the homes are, is that you have relatively dusty riding rings, you have relatively dusty pastures, you have outbuildings for things like bobcats and tractors, you have places to tether horses, you have places for the feed, you have places for the tack, and you have all kinds of things that don't look anywhere near as elegant and manicured as the suburbs around them. So my final word on this is, I've lived through the changes there, and it is a fundamentally different landscape that exists in Douglas County at that point than when the current zoning was put in place. At the time the current zoning was put in place, it made perfect sense. 30, 35 years later, it does not. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Kristen Decker, for the record, with Otten Johnson, Robinson, Neff, and Reganetti. To address a few comments right up front that were made by the community interest group, they go by CIG. I'll just use CIG from now on to be brief. As I indicated, my attendance at that first meeting in August, it wasn't communicated in advance, and that was a mistake, and we owned up to that. Also, one individual from our development team did introduce me as a note taker. That was also corrected very quickly. I explained my role as a land use attorney, so nobody was misled. I thought we had moved past that because at the meeting we all kind of exchanged apologies, like, we're sorry we made that mistake. They were sorry for the way they reacted, and I thought we had moved on. So I just wanted to touch on that because there were so many comments about that in the record. To begin our presentation, since there were several hearings that we were not in attendance at because our firm wasn't hired to represent the applicant, I went ahead and I reviewed the records for the hearings and listened to the hearings. At the end of the hearing on July 22nd, the board's direction was very, very, very clear. Engage directly, in good faith, to get to a place that makes sense. That was the direct advice from the board. Contrary to the applicants, contrary to CIG's position, Pine Reef 40 did honor that assignment. They took it seriously, hired our firm, and met with the neighbors with the hope of finding a compromise. While full agreement wasn't accomplished, we do think meaningful changes were made to the application. So to go through those changes, I'm terrible at running these. Okay. On August 7th, that was our first meeting after the July 22nd hearing. We met with the community interest group to explore potential areas for consensus. And it was our understanding that these were those areas. Removal of the private equestrian center, addition of the 2.3 acre equestrian estate lots along the southern border near the horse park, the reduction of total number of lots. Now, there was some confusion in the record with the statements made by some of the CIG members. We did not claim that we had consensus on the number of units. We just knew that we had to reduce the number of units. The addition of a 50-foot equestrian easement along the southern border, as well as keeping the height limitations on the northern planning area and the perimeter, all the way around the perimeter, there's a buffer. So those were planned to be kept. So on August 14th, which was 1 week later, we planned to meet and we submitted our concept plan to the members beforehand. And we incorporated all of the areas of consensus, and we reduced the lot from 44 to 42. Later at that same meeting, CIG verbally proposed 30 lots in total with the 10 equestrian estate lots. The meeting ended due to lack of consensus on the number of lots. And at this point, they had hired Jonah Hunt to represent them because they said they felt like they needed an attorney. I explained my role was only to assist my client with their land use application, but they chose to do that. So I reached out to CIG's counsel, Jonah Hunt, on August 20th, summarizing our understanding of where we were, and inquired whether CIG would consider supporting a lot count higher than 30. On September 4th, whoops, I have these up here too. On September 4th, Mr. Hunt responded that if middle ground were to be reached, the applicant should make the next proposal, that they would welcome such a proposal and further dialogue to see if resolution could be reached. On September 15th, as requested, our team, including the investors, made the next proposal of the total number of 38 lots with 5 equestrian estates, 3.2 acres each, or sorry, I said that backwards, 2.3 acres each along that southern boundary. On September 18th, September 22nd, and September 24th, I sent emails to Mr. Hunt to engage in further dialogue to see if there was some room for a compromise. On September 26th, we received a letter that's also in your packet indicating that CIG was unwilling to move from its prior proposal of 30 lots. This slide demonstrates the number of meetings that have occurred since December of 2022, almost 3 years now, starting off at 130 lots in 22, 63 lots in 23, 45 lots in 24, 44 lots in 25, you can read it, 42 lots in 2025, and now we're down to 38 lots. So there have been several meetings with the community to discuss areas of consensus. During this time, several other concessions were made by the applicant that will be discussed on the next page of this slide. The PD amendment before the board today includes the following additional concessions made since July 22nd. They've reduced the residential lots from 44 half-acre lots to 38 lots, including 5 2.3 acre equestrian lots along the southern property line and 33 1/3 to 1 acre single-family residential lots. They've agreed to include a 50-foot equestrian easement on the southern boundary near the horse park, and they've removed the private equestrian center. The concessions made previously in the prior applications that were desired by CIG were also incorporated into this amendment. There's a 25-foot building height restriction for the northernmost planning area, and there's an open space buffer around the entire perimeter of the development. CIG members generally focused on 3 approval criteria in Section 1520 of the zoning resolution. I'll focus my comments primarily on those, especially since the board at its July 22nd hearing focused on the second and third criteria. 1520.01 reviews whether the application is consistent with the development standards, commitments, and overall intent of the PD. So we're talking about the entire Pinery PD. This property is within the Pinery separated urban area, surrounded by urban level density on the north, east, and west sides, and by a commercial equine veterinary facility immediately to the south. The overall density of the project is 0.81 dwelling units per acre, the lowest in the vicinity. The application is consistent with the development standards and commitments of the Pinery PD, as there are no significant changes proposed to allowed uses or development criteria. I went through the Pinery PD, which is something. It's been amended 30 times, and it's very long. This applicant will follow those standards that are included in there, except for the small number of changes being made here. The application also complies with the 2040 Comprehensive Master Plan. It does not expand the SUA boundary, which is the separated urban area, which is one of the goals, the objectives and policies within the comprehensive plan. It protects views by limiting building heights to 25 feet along the northern boundary because this slopes down. It blends with the existing character of adjoining developments in terms of use, lot size, and density. And it's in an area that was planned to be developed as it has existing and planned capacity and services and infrastructure. This slide shows the enormity of the Pinery plan development and its urban level development that has surrounded this infill parcel, shown by the star. That's the development parcel. This shows the consistency with the plan development, as this review criteria requires that the application be consistent with the intent, efficient development, and preservation of the entire PD. This application increases the overall units in the entire Pinery PD by only 23. This visual shows how the proposed density will be entirely consistent with the surrounding area. The buffer areas around the perimeter of the project will provide the separator between the existing residences and the new lots. The southern portion of the project, as I've said, it borders what is now a commercial equine veterinary facility. It's a very different perspective than the other side of the Colorado Horse Park, which is well-maintained and attractive. Nonetheless, the applicant has agreed to provide a 50-foot equestrian easement on the southern border with the 5 equestrian estate residential lots bordering this facility, as requested by CIG. This is just a picture of the other side of the park, which is beautiful. This is not the side where the development is being proposed. Review criteria 1520.03 looks at whether the amendment will adversely affect the public interest or the enjoyment of adjacent land. This was brought up by board members at the July 22nd hearing. The proposed development, it does not encroach on adjacent lands. It has a buffer around it, as I've explained. It includes a 50-foot equestrian easement along the entire southern boundary, and trails are proposed to provide connectivity. The density, the overall density is the lowest in the surrounding area, and the lot sizes are entirely consistent. There are multiple access points to the property, and the levels of service on the road will remain high. Topography slopes from north to south, as we discussed, and the roof height on the northern planning area is limited to 25 feet. I don't believe there's any controversy related to the application's compliance with the last 4 criteria, 04, 05, 06, and 07. But to touch on them briefly, with regard to 04, the project will not confer a special benefit upon an individual. New residents will locate into this community. Streets will be utilized by homeowners in the area, and taxes will be paid to provide financial benefit to the districts and the county. With regard to 152005, Pine Water and Wastewater District has agreed to provide water and wastewater service. With regard to 1520.06, gas, electric, fire, school, and safety services are available for the development. And with regard to 1520.07, the addition of the 23 lots will have minimal impact on traffic and level of service will remain high. In conclusion, this property has sat undeveloped for 36 years, demonstrating that equestrian estate lots were never viable. In contrast, the surrounding neighborhoods were rezoned to higher density decades ago and have been sold and built out, reflecting market conditions and the community's evolution. The neighbors would not be here but for the board approving a prior amendment to the Pinery PD. There is one issue, because it was raised in the most recent comments to the board. I'd like to correct the record regarding Helen Kriebel's vision for this property. In 2014, almost 20 years after the Fifth Amendment, which increased the density in the Pinery PD, was approved, John Evans, who was her attorney, submitted an application to Douglas County staff for a pre-submittal meeting on Helen's behalf, seeking to develop the parcel at 56 units, and provided a site plan, which I brought to this hearing in case anybody wants to see it. I've also seen Mr. Evans' statement that her intent was for it to remain equestrian estate. So there's obviously an inconsistency in the county's records, which anybody can access. They are online on Projects Online. And what Mr. Evans' recollection of her intent was. I only bring that up because it seems to be a point of contention that has been raised by the neighbors. So this application simply brings this long vacant site into alignment with the urban level development that has successfully established around it. We really sincerely believe that all the criteria have been met, and we respectfully request your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Any questions for the applicant? Counsel, do you have additional members of your team that are presenting?
Oh, sorry, yes. We have Rusty Hall, James Marine, and Chris Meeks here to answer any questions.
Okay, do we have
Thank
any
you for
additional
asking me that.
presentation?
I'm sorry?
Do we have any additional presentation from your team?
No, we don't.
Okay, just here to answer questions. Okay. Bringing you back to the board for any questions.
Perhaps it is appropriate to ask if the applicant accepts the conditions?
Do you accept the conditions as presented?
Yes.
Okay, great. And we have 3 conditions. If you want to bring those up.
Yeah, I must have been looking at a map, but I didn't see.
Two on this page, and then a third, the standard board condition.
Great, thank you. Commissioner, any additional questions on the conditions?
No.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, I'll reserve my questions for the applicant so that we can open it up for citizen comment. The purposes for today's discussion are limited to the changes that have been made by the applicant, so I will ask that all citizen comment be restrained in scope to the changes that have been made. That said, I want to recognize and respect the fact that many of you have taken the time off of work and other responsibilities to be here today, and we know that there have been challenges in the past that you have shared with us about being able to share public comment. So we want to be here to listen to all of your comments and any thoughts that you may have. So with that,
Chair.
Yes, sir.
Chair, if I may. It was noted by the applicant that Mr. Hunt was engaged by the community interest group to represent them in negotiations with the applicant. Could we, in terms of public comment, could we first hear from Councilor Hunt to speak on behalf of the community interest group prior to opening the floor for other public comment?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I think that's a wise and appropriate next step. If there is a representative on behalf of the community that would like to present or comment. Yes, sir. And sir, if you can approach the podium and just state your name and where you're from, please. We can hear you, but nobody online can unless it's in the mic. Thanks.
My name's Sheldon Irish. I'm a member of the CIG team that we set
Okay.
up. Mr. Hunt did represent us after we were surprised by Ms. Decker's participation. We did consult with him. He did interface with her, but he's not here today, as we felt that given 3-minute limitations of presentations, that we could just convey his thoughts, which is what we're communicating back to you today.
Okay, well, that's fine. I do have a sign-up sheet, so the first person on the list is Jenna Preston. Is Jenna here?
Hey, Chair.
Yes, sir.
Understanding, this is a little bit of a departure from the norm, the way this application has gone through. I would be fine hearing from the gentleman who just spoke and giving him a little latitude in terms of time as a representative of the community interest group, as he did identify himself as an organizer.
And I was the individual directly interfacing with Jonah Hunt in our communications.
I would be happy to hear from him first if he would be willing to answer questions from the board as well.
Yeah, so
I have
would you,
I
are
have
you a
3-minute
designated
presentation
representative?
along. Do I still have the ability to do the 3-minute presentation as well?
You do, but what I'm asking you is, are you the representative for your community?
Yes.
Okay, great. Commissioner, any problems with that? Okay. And we'll give some flexibility consistent with Commissioner Teal's comments to make sure we're hearing you out.
Okay.
Please.
So just to confirm, you're looking for me to communicate Jonah Hunt's communications? I'm just trying to make sure I understand what you're looking for.
We are asking for you to represent your community and provide the comments that have been forwarded to you.
All right,
And-
some of this will be
and,
redundant to my 3 minutes, so I'll
and-
just make acknowledgement of that.
And
So-
Chair, if further direction
Yeah.
for the speaker, obviously direction was communicated to Councilor Hunt to represent the group. Could the comments include rationale for any direction to Councilor Hunt? Because we have heard from the applicant some of that interface from Councilor Hunt. I, for one, am interested in hearing a little bit of the direction that was given to Councilor Hunt, and then I'd actually like to hear the why.
Yeah,
And
I
I
think
can-
that's
and I can do
perfectly
that.
fine. Sure, please.
And the first part of your question is, we did not ask Mr. Hunt to be here today because we felt with a limit of 3 minutes of presenting that from a cost basis, we chose not to have him come represent us today. Now, relative to his retainment, the reason we retained Jonah Hunt was because on the 7th of August, the first meeting that we met with Pinery 40, and the reference to the note taker, we honestly set up a table meeting. We got a small negotiation team from our community all set up to help and work with them to come up with a middle ground. The July 22nd Board of Commissioner meeting had referenced 15 and 45 relative to density as a middle ground. Seek a middle ground in between those numbers. We engaged Mr. Hunt after we learned about Ms. Decker's attorney. We're homeowners, we're not attorneys, so when we see an attorney in a room, we just assume that we must have to get an attorney to represent ourselves. Ms. Decker also at the second meeting dictated is the wrong word. She leveled a requirement that we could not talk to Pinery 40 anymore, that all communications had to go through her. That also made it point that we needed to retain an attorney. So it turned out Jonah Hunt knows Kristen from other activities, so he was familiar with her. And he reached out with some phone calls, a couple of emails to set the stage for interface. The timeline that you saw Ms. Decker present, those communication transactions are true, those took place. And the key difference is the baseline is 15 equestrian state lots. It's hard for our community to go above that. We've kind of held that for a long time. And we did go to the middle ground of 15 to 45. We went to 30. And Jonah Hunt helped us communicate as required by Ms. Decker with legal correspondence and communications in order to communicate our community's wishes. He supported our wishes and communicated in the letter that she referenced. We did not engage him to come today because we didn't feel economically that we would get a value for that. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, it does. If you want to proceed with the rest of your presentation, sir.
Okay. And that was number 2 on your list, so we'll get that. So my name is Sheldon Irish. My wife Nancy and I have lived at 7978 Cecina Way for over 20 years. Pine Tree 40 has actively rejected the community's overwhelming desire for equestrian estate zoning and equestrian estate preservation throughout the entire pursuit of this project. Even just recently, Ms. Decker did not mention that in that whole timeline she showed you, that in August 24, the Planning Commission recommended denial unanimously. And they didn't mention it in January land use meeting that you tabled the project again to reach out to the community. And your instructions were very clear. Go meet with the community. And from January to July, as you noted, they never met with us. And those meetings were presentations. They were not sit-down discussions, by the way. At the July Board of Commissioner meeting, you instructed Pine Tree 40 to pursue a middle ground solution. To assist the pursuit, we established a small team, of which I am a member, called the Community Interest Group, and I participated in all the meetings and discussions. It consists of representatives from the 3 directly adjacent HOAs, along with Dr. Tischer of the Colorado Horse Park. We contacted Pine Tree 40 on August 2nd, requesting to meet with them and provided a list of attendees and a location at the horse park. So we actively pursued your request. At the first meeting on August 7th, I won't read this paragraph. It basically addresses the note taker and Ms. Decker's surprise. And that what key though is we proceeded with the meeting being careful not to agree to any project density solutions prior to retaining our own attorney, because we wanted to be careful what was being said in front of Ms. Decker. Pine Tree 40 immediately at the meeting also offered to remove the HOA-owned equine boarding area proposed to you in July. This was a no-brainer as it was impractical and unworkable. Yet in removing it, they want to be applauded and credited as this is part of their compromise, when it shouldn't have been in the plan to begin with. At the meeting, Pine Tree 40 finally agreed after 2+ years to incorporate equestrian state lots. We had a consensus for Pine Tree 40 to create a conceptual map with some general parameters, providing first ever look at a mixed density layout of 0.5 acres and 2.3 acre lots. Lot density targets were never a parameter, and they weren't on her chart either when she talked about what we would use to create the map. Pine Tree 40's recent narrative, which was just submitted, states the conceptual plan presented reflected areas of consensus, which included 42 home sites, only 4 of which were equestrian estates. Saying there was a density consensus is a false statement for 2 reasons. One, I called Mr. Meeks on a Sunday prior to Ms. Decker shutting off communications and told him that we would provide at the next meeting our middle ground recommendation. At the next meeting, we proposed a 30-lot density solution, which was halfway between the 15 and 45 lots, with a mixture of equestrian estate and 0.5 acre lots. And also, based on my conversation and the presentation you just saw, there were no density parameters ever established versus what the narrative said. Pine Tree 40 is being economic with the truth and look to take advantage of our good faith efforts of our community outreach to them. Our community's proposal of 30 lots consisting of 20 half-acre lots and 10 equestrian state lots is a fair middle ground and supports the preservation of the equestrian culture in our county that is so important, which is why we ask again that you deny their rezone request. Thank you.
I have questions, Chair.
Thank you so much. And we'll diverge from our normal protocol to make sure that my colleague has the opportunity to ask some questions. Commissioner?
Thank you, Chair. Hey, Mr. Irish, so I think we get the timeline, and I do give the community a great deal of credit. You guys came together and you engaged with the applicant as we had requested you to do. So I do give you credit. I am, there does not seem to be a dispute as to where the applicant is with their request for the number of lots versus where the community interest group came forward. I understand the difference. What I don't understand is why is that 30 a magic number? Why is 20 and 10 such a magic number? How did you come to the conclusion that that would be acceptable to the community?
Because to get to the 30, sir, our goal was still to retain equestrian state lots, equestrian state culture, and there are equestrian state HOAs in the area that don't have any of the problems that you just heard about, putting down equestrian lots that are well maintained. In order to retain that, knowing that we had to leave 15, which is where we'd prefer the current zoning, we came up with a number of 10 equestrian state lots. And by the way, not mentioned, the zoning is 2.5 equestrian state lots. Part of our compromise was to go down to 2.3, the minimum required by the county, which they're taking advantage of as far as their density. So the 10 was a number for us based on homeowners and people familiar with the equestrian community to maintain that culture, that community next to the Colorado Horse Park. And so we felt, because the conversations in July were 15, 45, get to the middle, we said, okay, 10 equestrian state lots, then 20 half-acre custom home lots, 30 lots.
So I appreciate all the work around the equestrian lots. That is actually something I am interested in seeing, the proposal. I don't understand, and you have not articulated, at least to my satisfaction, sir, why is the 20 residential a magic number? Why did you not instruct Councilor Hunt to come back with 25 and 10? Why was it 20?
We worked with our community. Our small group still reached back within their HOAs to communicate what we would negotiate or come up to. Our community was first adamant they wanted to hold the 15, and we kept saying, no, that's probably not a good idea. And so we proposed the 30 primarily because it was halfway between the 15 and 45 that kept being referenced in July as a middle ground solution, and that was the driver.
Mr. Irish, you were not articulating the logic behind the 20 as opposed to a 25, or even refuting the density that we're seeing the applicant come forward with. You're not answering my question of why is 20 a magic number. I understand about the equestrian estates. You've done a very good job explaining that, sir, and quite frankly, I do appreciate that work. But sir, I am not hearing you articulate why is 20 a magic number on the residential.
The 20
Well,
number.
and if I could interject, so for my colleague, I certainly appreciate the line of questioning. What I'm hearing from you, Mr. Sheldon, is that the magic number is 15, but you negotiated in good faith, and that's how you got to 30.
Yes. 15 is the current zoning. We've been opposing the project for the last several years because the equestrian state zoning, we believe, is still applicable, marketable, still has a purpose in our community. And the 30 became a middle ground solution and still being able to retain equestrian state lots.
So not ideal, just a compromise.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Teal, anything additional?
No, I think I have my answers that I needed. I do appreciate, sir, you coming forward and answering questions as well as presenting your opinion and the opinion of your neighbors.
Can I provide you one more comment? You'll hear it later, but it's a short comment. It's part of our conversations. Pine Ridge 40 did acknowledge that they would make money over 15 lots. Now, they failed to answer that question for you just about every meeting. But they acknowledge that 15 lots, they could still make money. It's more how much money that can they make.
Okay.
I'm done.
Mr. Irish, thank you. I'm going to turn back to number one on our list. I believe it's Dr. Jenna Preston. Dr. Preston?
We also have a letter.
I'm not great at math, but if I did the math, 44 minus 38, that's 6, and you guys compromised 15, so it looks like a big difference. But hello, everybody, again. My name is Dr. Jenna Preston. I am a licensed clinical psychologist living on Sistina Way, working with our active duty military in Colorado, and a proud military spouse of a retired Air Force veteran. I've attended every single meeting, not just this one. I've conducted outreach to our neighbors, to the equestrian community, to businesses, spoken to Colorado Horse Park event attendees, and kept the community informed about the rezoning request. Time and time again, I heard the community voice opposition to rezoning as they are adamant about maintaining the current zoning and welcoming these 15 equestrian properties. I heard from individuals who actually knew Helen Kriebel personally and her thoughtful vision to create an equestrian neighborhood comprised of 15 estates on these acres, the last of its kind near the Colorado Horse Park. You will experience less speakers today than previous meetings to acknowledge your valuable time, but also to acknowledge that this is the third of this kind meeting addressing the same project. You'll hear from a small team that represented over 450 households minimally adjacent to the HOAs and the Pine Ridge 40 LLC negotiations. This team, called the SIG, is here today to speak for us, but please know, less speakers and less voices does not mean less opposition. Many previous presenters are here in the audience, all wearing red to show our continued support as a community. I wasn't a part of the SIG, but like my neighbors, I trusted in their willingness to meet directly with the developers and come up with a middle ground solution as you requested in July. When the SIG informed me that they were going to offer a plan of only 30 homes and only 10 of them equestrian properties, that was hard to accept, I'll admit. When I heard that developers rejected this offer and still wanted 38 homes and 2.5 times the current zoning, I joined our collective voice to push for rejection of the major rezoning request and maintain the current zoning. As a community, we have many choices in how we use our voice, either letters, petitions, online posts, being present here today, speeches, but we are all here together as one voice to oppose this project. We all agree at a minimum that amendment criteria 1, 2, and 3 are not met. Because the proposed project does not preserve the equestrian estate community and the current zone as it's intended. Also, with only 5 equestrian lots, the enjoyment expected would be significantly diminished. Building an extra 23 homes, it will not solve any housing issues and also provide the developers with more profit. As a neighbor reminded me, the 7 major amendment criteria is our Constitution. If they're not met or not upheld and respected, what's left? The major rezoning criteria must guide your decision here today. No to rezoning, yes to the community voices that you serve, and let the last sound we hear be the neighing of 15 horses. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Preston.
And thank you, neighbors.
With that, we'll move on to, I believe, Dr. Amy Alderton. Dr. Alderton.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Dr. Amy Alderton, and I currently live at 7553 Nuthatch Circle in the Timbers 22 homeowners, and I am the president of our homeowners association. If we could reset the timer to 6 minutes, I believe.
Sure, that's fine.
Excellent, thank you so much. Our community has been unanimously opposed to the rezoning of this 47-acre parcel from its current 15 lots. The proposed increase in density dramatically alters the intent of this land and undermines the balance between development, open space, and the equestrian identity that long has defined this area. As a welcome sign posted on one of the entrances to our county says, Douglas County, where quality of life comes first. At your last meeting, the board directed both sides to work together to find compromise. We took that direction seriously. It was our community interest group, representing HOAs and stakeholders from all sides of the Pinery 40 property, that initiated contact and scheduled discussions. I, along with Phil Buck and Sally McGowan of our Timbers 22 HOA board, personally participated in those meetings. It was our group, not the developer, that came forward with a specific, well-considered proposal intended to find common ground. We worked diligently and in good faith, collaborating with surrounding HOAs to create a middle ground concept. We aimed to bridge the gap between the current 15 lots and the developer's prior 44 lot proposal by offering a compromise of 30 total lots, a number actually suggested by Commissioner Layden at the January meeting. Our concept included 10 equestrian estates and 20 residential lots. While we did not support a rezone, we were willing to accept 30 lots for a balanced, fair, and collaborative outcome, as directed to pursue by the board in July. Unfortunately, Pinery 40 did not share that same spirit. Their actions and communications reflected an intent not to collaborate, but instead to see how far they could push density while still gaining board approval. Their focus appears to be maximizing yield rather than crafting a plan that truly balances development with community integrity and the equestrian spirit that complements the Colorado Horse Park. At one meeting, a Pinery 40 representative even remarked, "We could make money at 15 lots," a statement that makes clear that this project is not about feasibility, but rather about chasing maximum profit, regardless of long-term impact on surrounding communities. Our community interest group also encountered troubling behavior that you've heard about today. Pinery 40's representatives were at times economic with the truth. They introduced their attorney as a note taker, restricted information flow, and ultimately insisted that all communication go through counsel. That effectively ended the transparent, productive exchange that your board had encouraged. The current proposal, 38 lots with 5 equestrian and 33 residential sites ranging from roughly 1/3 to, I think they mentioned today, 1 acre, does not uphold the original intent for this property in our opinion. It was always envisioned as an equestrian-oriented parcel consistent with Douglas County's horse heritage and its proximity to the Colorado Horse Park. The proposed design fragments this purpose and isolates the equestrian lots rather than supporting a cohesive horse community. Horses are herd animals. They crave proximity, space, and interaction. With only 5 equestrian lots, this plan cannot sustain a genuine equestrian lifestyle. In that sense, it is not a continuation of Douglas County's equestrian character. It is an erosion of it. Moreover, the proposal fails to meet the fundamental requirements for rezoning outlined in 1520-01 through 03 of the county's major amendment approval criteria, which address consistent with the plan development intent, preservation of community character, and protection of public interest. Pinery 40's proposal fails to satisfy those criteria and instead diminishes the rural character that the county has pledged to preserve. Our community is not opposed to growth. We understand progress must occur, but growth should be responsible, transparent, and respectful, built through trust and genuine collaboration. We came to the table in good faith with Pinery 40. We offered compromise. We acted as the neighbors and stewards that we strive to be, and yet our willingness to bend was met with a developer unwilling to meet us halfway. Commissioners, this 47-acre parcel represents one of the final opportunities to shape how this unique area evolves. You have the ability to preserve its equestrian character, its open space, and its harmony with the Colorado Horse Park. Or we can allow it to become another generic subdivision that chips away at the very identity of Douglas County. On behalf of the 133 families that I represent in Timbers 22, I respectfully urge you, deny the proposed rezoning of Pinery 40. At minimum, limit the rezoning to the 30-lot compromise that our community interest group proposed in good faith. Please help ensure that development here remains aligned with the values that drew us all to Douglas County, respect for the land, our neighbors, and the equestrian heritage that makes this area truly special. Thank you for your time, your leadership, and your continued commitment to thoughtful stewardship of the county's preservation.
Thank you, Dr. Alderton. We have Greg Watanabe. Mr. Watanabe.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Greg Watanabe. I reside at 5379 Pinion J Road in Parker, and it borders the 47 acres in question. I serve as the president of the Homeowners Association for Filing 23, which has 161 homes. So I would ask if you could reset the clock for 6 minutes.
Sure.
Thank you.
And actually, Mr. Chairman, while we do that, it has been mentioned several times by several moments of testimony about the profit margin or the home prices in the future and things like that. Those are things that we are not permitted as a body to even consider. We are sworn in a quasi-judicial capacity to act objectively and adhere to the standards which are on the screen there, none of which involve the profit margin or break-even point for a developer or future homeowner.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I will ask that all testimony be restricted to the approval standards in the discussion. You may proceed.
Okay. First, the question was asked by Commissioner Teal about how we arrived at the number, the logic to get to the 30 homes. Taking the 47 acres total, 23 of those acres would be the equestrian lots. 20 of those at a half acre would be 10 acres. So you have a total then of 33 acres that would be residential or home lots. That leaves 14 acres for infrastructure, roadways, walking paths, equestrian paths, as well as parks and the open space that's driven in Douglas County. So those were the numbers and how we got to that point. Some of those items in the early applications were not addressed specifically. So we tried to take that into consideration in the spirit of fairness and compromise, if that helps to clarify that. Commissioners, you have heard opposition to this. I want to be crystal clear that filing 23 is opposed to the application as it stands currently. And to be clear, we are not opposed to development, but development under the current zoning. You have heard of the unanimous opposition to the request for rezoning of the 47 acres from the residents of the adjacent neighborhoods. To be specifically clear, again, Timbers Homeowners Association filing 23 is unanimously opposed to the approval of the application as it currently stands. And I would like to bring focus to two aspects of the interactions and reinforce some of the comments already made. The first is integrity and transparency. I believe this is foundational to how the Board of Commissioners believes business and community meetings should be held. The second is the impact on the quality of life and the families living in the surrounding communities. Integrity and transparency. Starting with the first community presentation by Pinery 40 in December of 2002. There have been 4 additional meetings, and you saw the timeline for that. Again, these were presentations. They were not an environment for constructive dialogue and input from the community. It was more of the requirement of checking the box, and that came crystal clear. Pinery 40 has repeatedly, in multiple documents submitted to the Planning Department, Pinery 40 has claimed that the Colorado Horse Park had been consulted and agreements had been achieved relative to drainage, roads, and access. This proved to have been extreme liberal statements related to the actual facts. Prior to the August meeting, I'm trying to avoid repeating some of the things that have already been stated. You do have my presentation with my points that I'm making. We talked about consensus with the community interest group relative to the proposal map of the 38 lots, of which 5 of those were equestrian. And again, there was no consensus of that proposal. Since the CIG has not accepted, since the Pinery 40 has not accepted the counter proposal, if you will, of 30 lots, again, we respectfully request that the commissioners not approve their zoning request. The second point is the impact of the quality of life. You know, when my wife and I were searching for a home in the greater Denver area, we were struck by Douglas County webpage and its emphasis on collaboration with business interests that puts community and family first. A quote from the Douglas County webpage, we're a nationally recognized model of collaborative statesmanship, the interest of working collaboratively on issues, projects, and programs for the greater good of Douglas County. The statement, Douglas County is recognized for being one of the most family-friendly communities in Colorado, offering a quality of life unmatched elsewhere in the state. We checked on the zoning for the open 47 acres behind our home and were amazed that the property had not been developed, and honestly look forward to the 15 equestrian estate lots that would retain the openness and environment of an animal-friendly atmosphere for horses, as well as the current population of deer, turkey, owls, and hawks. We look forward to additional equestrian and walking trails, as well as community parks. None of these features, again, were addressed in any of the community presentations by Pinery 40. The proposed plan and increased density will have a negative impact on the noise, traffic, and surrounding neighborhood. To be crystal clear, residents of Filing 23 are not opposed to the development of the 47 acres. However, we are united in the retention of the current zoning of 15 equestrian estate lots, but willing to support the compromise of 10 equestrian estate lots and 20 smaller lots. We strongly recommend that the Board of Commissioners do the right thing and either limit the request to rezone to 30 lots or deny the application entirely. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Watanabe. We have Robert Fugazi. Is Robert here? Please.
Robert Fugazi, F-U-G-A-Z-I, if you couldn't read. Our home in the Timbers is not on the perimeter of the 47 acres we purchased about 12 years ago. We were attracted to the miles of white horse fencing along the Parker Road from North Pinery that goes all the way to South Pinery, and then miles into the neighborhoods. I mention this because the equestrian theme and the promise of an equestrian estate development is why we and so many of others chose to buy our homes. The developer has been honest about how they feel about the equestrian aspect and have begrudgingly added just token bits to gain your support. Yet the board's core priority is being responsible stewards of our history and heritage. Commissioner Teal, you're on video record commenting on preserving the Western heritage we have inherited and that we cherish, and you have commented about that today. A full equestrian community via the current zoning perfectly complements the horse park and the Two Bridges Trail Park along Bayou Gulch. It could be a Western heritage jewel in the crown of Douglas County and aligns with your stated priority. The over 200 responses in opposition to rezoning via letters, personal testimony, represents Timbers and Pinery families, as you're hearing, like me, who want a full equestrian community. Mr. Layden, you have stated at every session so far your opposition to rezoning. It is serious, and it's an insult to the hundreds of families with decades of home ownership equaling hundreds of millions of their investment and who support the current zoning. You've noted how you've never seen such an outpouring from a community. We have spoken out as a majority, and yet our voices seem to not be heard. In contrast, this compromise journey we've been on, your core priority states differently. The decisions we make must pass one simple test. Will it make Douglas County a better place? The answer must be a resounding yes. And more importantly, you state, meeting the basic criteria is not sufficient for approval. The current zoning, not the latest plan, will make the county a better place and pass your own test. Mr. All and Mr. Marine have stated publicly that they will build the 15. They'd rather build more, of course. The majority has spoken. We oppose the rezoning. The majority. It's an honored democratic principle that I hope still means something. So I ask that at least two of you honor that. Two would be a majority. And remember your board's core values that are written and I've commented on. I think it's time to stop, deny this plan, deny the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fugazi. Finally, we have Dr. Kelly Tischer. Is Dr. Tischer in the crowd? Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm not as good as these guys, so my comments are going to be a little redundant because I couldn't figure out how to redo it that quick like these guys are doing. I wanted to start by commenting on the first gentleman that spoke. One thing that hasn't changed is the horse park. It's still 120 acres. It still looks exactly like Helen had it there. I do agree, sadly, it is a little bit long in the tooth. It is requiring some updates to improve it. We just had our 75th anniversary of our clinic party there, and it was awesome. We really enjoyed it, and a celebration of career of Dr. Beeman, Vale, and Swanson for decades and centuries together of veterinary practice in Douglas County and the Colorado community. So it is exactly as it was, which means it needs a lot of work, and we're on the brink right now of putting $5+ million into the facility. It is suggested that it's two, but it's actually one big parcel, as you guys know, just under two different zonings, and we're putting money into both of those to kind of improve it to be that jewel that we picture of Douglas County. It's still a horse boarding training facility. It's a horse show grounds, and we're in the process. I wish our veterinary clinic was there. that would be awesome, but we are not there yet. So we plan to do that, obviously. So I'm speaking on behalf of the Colorado Horse Park, which borders the parcel in question. It's a 120-acre facility for boarding, training, horse shows, and the veterinary clinic. The equine industry contributes approximately $1.8 billion annually to the Colorado's economy, with Douglas County playing a significant role in that impact. The Colorado Horse Park is a key contributor to this economic activity, and we have consistently supported maintaining the current zoning of 15 equestrian lots to help preserve and promote that vital sector. Like many have said, compromise was what the commissioners had suggested. We hosted two in-person meetings with everyone at the Colorado Horse Park to try to come up with that. For me, the definition is finding middle ground, which is kind of where everybody's talked about having 30, which doubles the 15 and reduces by just a few percentage points, 31.8% to meet that middle ground. While no party was ever entirely satisfied, the compromise preserved equestrian use and allowed increased density to support the developer. Unfortunately, Pioneer 40 didn't accept the compromise, instead proposed 38 lots, a reduction of only 13.6 from the original plan. This revised proposal moves further away from equestrian use and closer to the higher density. We respectfully ask the commissioners to help guide this process toward a compromise that, while not ideal for anyone, is supportive, is something all parties can live with. Preserving equestrian zoning is not just about land use, it's about supporting a thriving industry and maintaining the character of Douglas County. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Tischer. So I don't have anyone else signed up on our list, but I do want to open it up. Is there anybody else in the gallery that would like to speak? Any additional citizen comment? Yes, ma'am. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Nancy Sammons, and I'm reading this for Sally McGowan, who is a resident in the Timbers in HOA 22, and she could not be here, so she asked me to read this for her. Advocating for 10 versus 5 equestrian estate lots in the Pinery. Good afternoon, commissioners. Although the community would still like to see the current zoning of 15 2.5 acres lots upheld, the good faith negotiations initiated by the community interest group came up with the reasonable compromise of 10 equestrian estate lots and 20.5-acre custom home sites. I'm here to advocate for the approval of 10 equestrian lots instead of the 5 proposed from Pioneer 40 LLC. This isn't just a matter of housing density, it is a matter of animal welfare, community vitality, and responsible land use. Let's begin with the horses. Horses are highly social animals. Their instinct is to live in herds and is not product of domestication. It is an evolutionary trait developed over millions of years as prey animals. Horses rely on a group living for survival. This provides multiple sets of eyes and ears to detect danger, and the social bonds within it reduce stress and promote emotional stability. Scientific studies have shown that horses' long-term affiliative bonds, they recognize and remember companions, engage in mutual grooming, and synchronize behaviors, even across distances. One study uses ultra-wideband tracking found that horses maintain consistent proximity to preferred companions, and that social isolation leads to elevated stress response. Now let's connect this to Douglas County zoning. Douglas County allows horses based on parcel size and zoning district. In estate residential and rural residential zones, parcels between 2.3 and 4.49 acres typically allow 1 horse per acre. This means that the 10 lots, each responsibly sized, can support more horses legally and sustainably than 5 lots. More lots also mean more families can responsibly own horses, creating a social environment not just for people, but for the horses themselves. By requiring Pioneer 40 to incorporate trails in the land use plan, you are not only benefiting the local horse community and the animals themselves, but by providing immediate access to physical activity opportunities, you will also benefit visitors who arrive on the property to the Colorado Horse Park. Trail riding opportunities are often taken advantage when offered. Douglas County also requires proper setbacks, vegetation standards, and waste management for horse properties. With 10 lots, these standards can be met more effectively across multiple properties, promoting better compliance and environmental protection. In short, separating 10 lots instead of the 5 proposed by Pinery 40 isn't just a zoning decision, it's a commitment to animal welfare, community growth, and rural sustainability. It aligns with the Douglas County zoning intent and support for the values we all share. Thank you for your time and your thoughtfulness.
Thank you, Ms. Salmons. Is there anyone else that is looking to testify today in the gallery? Okay, seeing none. Troy, is there anybody online?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment today.
Okay, thank you, Troy. So with that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the applicant for any response. You might have to turn it on.
Go ahead and push it to the left. There you go.
Thank you, Commissioners. Can you hear me okay now?
Yep.
I'm Russell Hall. I'm with Highline Engineering, and I'm also representing Pinery 40 LLC today. We had prepared, our company and our staff had prepared the actual zoning documents and the narrative and the amendment to the PUD guide. I'd like to respond to just a few of the comments that I heard today, just to make sure that all of the information is out there in clarity. There was some discussion that, there's been a lot of letters written in opposition to this project, and we've also provided a lot of letters in support of this project, including, the Douglas County Economic Development Corporation, which has supported this project for its need in Douglas County for executive homes. And this development provides that. I'd also like to address a statement made by Dr. Tischer, who actually supported the adjacent equestrian lots along our southern border. He just indicated to us that lessened the adversity and issues and problems associated with numerous property owners adjacent to one of his facilities, including, this horse park. There was some discussion on 10 equestrian lots 10 equestrian lots with 20 half-acre home sites on this development. And there was no site planning, there was no engineering, there was very little information given. I have actually taken the time to look at just to see if that type of split in properties would actually fit on this project. Given the engineering, the detention ponds, the infrastructure, just the fact that you want continuity through this project did not make those numbers viable just from a land planning or an engineering standpoint. Our plan that we've presented on our land use right now would have one street continuing through this project with half-acre lots on both sides of the street, showing a continuity not just for our subdivision, but with the adjoining subdivision. The 5-acre lot, or the 2.3-acre lots to the south, the 5 equestrian lots, just barely, physically fit from an engineering and land planning standpoint. That would also provide a separation between urban homes on a half-acre lot and 2.3-acre equestrian lots. So we've done our best to make sure that what we're proposing will actually comply with both the county's zoning regulations and the comprehensive plan to come up with the plan that you see before you today. think that's as far as I'm going to go with response to the comments we've heard today. I think that our plan is in compliance as we've stated. There's been some discussion on, what number, where the numbers actually come from, 38 versus 30 versus 15. We have millions of dollars invested into this project just for the land purchase, and we have 3 years of interest carry on top of that. We've actually hired a company to assist us with the cost of construction so that we know what those dollar amounts are going to be, and we're really at that point where we're receiving, a moderate return on investment. We're not trying to be greedy. We're not trying to put more into this project so that we can get a higher, a super high return. Nobody's retiring off of this project. It works from a financial standpoint at 38 lots, and that's why we were willing to come down. We lost, almost $3 million in sales as a result of that compromise, and we're trying to reach that middle ground, and that's kind of where we are with our numbers. And I think I'll turn it over to Kristen to close it off. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hall.
How did you turn yours on? That'll work. I think just one closing issue is that none of these equestrian estate lots have been successful. There's not one horse on any of the equestrian estate lots in Douglas County. So it doesn't, in the Pinery, I'm sorry, I misspoke. And we did provide that buffer to the horse park with those 5 equestrian estate lots. And we're looking at it from the consistency of the approval criteria. And it's a seamless transition from if this is built out, from one neighborhood to the next. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Council. So with that, I'm going to bring it back to the board for further discussion. Go ahead.
I'll be happy to get us going. We had struggled, Board, to remind everybody, on item 1521, 02, and 03. And based upon what we were hearing from the community versus what the design the applicant brought before us, we urged, and the applicant agreed to pursue compromise. Dr. Tischer talked about, we should be attempting to find a compromise. The applicant showed a timeline of meeting with the community. The community did organize. The community did, seemingly in response to the applicant acquiring legal counsel, the community acquired legal counsel. The community gave direction to that legal counsel. Compromise was pursued. We saw that in the timeline, and Mr. Irish did not dispute the timeline. But then compromise failed, and the parties came to loggerheads. I am going to err on the side of the landowner and the applicant in that they did pursue compromise. Compromise was made. We just heard from Mr. Hall a little bit of his logic behind the proposal we see from the applicant today. I felt that Mr. Watanabe did a good job providing some of that clarity to us, on where the community's proposal came from. But at the same token, the community, and understandably, the community is not the ones investing money here. The community is not the ones who actually own this land. They did not go to that same level of detail that Mr. Hall articulated. So I see an applicant that has made a good faith effort to compromise, to meet the desires of the surrounding community, and yet at the same time exercise their own rights to capitalize on property they own. And I do actually feel like the applicant has come forward with a proposal that actually do meet these approval standards based upon the feedback they requested from this board and this board gave. So I'm inclined to support the applicant. I'm happy to make a motion to do so if it would carry forward further conversation and deliberation of the board.
Well, Commissioner, thank you for that line of logic and for your diligence in analyzing the facts. I think, we all endeavor to listen and pursue the best outcome. As a land use attorney, I'm not, unfamiliar with rezones and the work that must be done with regard to entitlements. Philosophically, I hate rezones, and you've heard me say that every time. When we talk about who has an economic interest in property, I think it is incorrect to assert that the citizens before us today don't have an economic interest in their property, or in this one, because it's a promissory estoppel argument. Anytime you invest in reliance upon zoning and the zoning changes, it affects your property values. So that seems very logical to me. In my mind, it's pretty cut and dried. Planning Commission voted unanimously against this. I don't know why we have a planning commission if we're not going to take their recommendations. 152002 I don't think is met. 152003 is not met. 152001 is not met. The original intent for this land was equestrian. That is not being met here. The compromise is appreciated, but as we've heard from the expert animal community, the number of horses that would be boarded at this particular juncture would not be humane for the animals. And because of the nature that horses operate under, I think the specific letter from Dr. Alderton was that they crave proximity, space, and interaction. And with only 5 equestrian lots, they cannot sustain that genuine equestrian lifestyle. I am challenged by, the nature of the negotiations. I'm a fan of communities in dispute working together, trying to find compromise. I don't disagree that the parties did endeavor to have some discussions, but I think the entire timeline since January and beyond, I'm very challenged by. And I think the record is clear. I believe the citizens in this community have acted in good faith. I don't think you like 30. I think you have compromised far beyond your willingness or desire to do so, but you have done it in good faith. I don't think the applicant has failed to do that, but for me, the reduction to 38 is not meaningful enough to meet the criteria under the approval standards. So again, the PC voted no. I don't think the approval standards have been met. And I go back to the statement that many citizens shared. It's the motto that the county had back in 1994, which I'm really thankful our board has resurrected and brought back. And the motto of Douglas County is it's a place where quality of life comes first. It's a place where quality of life comes first. And in my mind, the people that are best appropriate to inform this board of what quality of life looks like are the citizens. And we've heard that from you. So that's why under 152003, when we talk about, will this adversely affect the public interest or enjoyment, we've heard that it will. So I'm going to be opposed to this application, but certainly welcome further discussion.
Well, and I appreciate both your comments. I appreciate the long process that this has gone through. The Planning Commission hearing referenced was August 19th, not this past August 19th, the August 19th prior to that. Very different Planning Commission, very different plan, frankly. When this plan first came at 130 units, I believe the Planning Commission, what they saw, was either 45 or 63, not units, lots. And since then, it has come down to today's 38. And when looking at the approval standards of does it meet the intent of the overall plan development, when looking at the satellite photo of largely the overall planned development, the homes proposed here are not too dissimilar from the current homes that are in the surrounding area. In fact, very, very similar and actually larger lot sizes. 38 lots on 46.5 acres with buffers around it. It's hard for me to read through those first several approval standards and really find one that stands out boldly to me as the plan does not fit. Now, if I was a homeowner who purchased a home nearby, I would be very happy that a planning commission or a board of county commissioners approved my home to be built at that time. And at the same time, I probably wouldn't want new homes to go in the space near me. But there are people around Douglas County that are looking for homes. They're looking for acre lots or half-acre lots, and that's what's being offered here. If I could find an approval standard, again, we can't, there's a lot that I would like to weigh on my personal opinions that I'm not allowed to weigh here. And here, a judge in a black robe, so to speak, with quasi-judicial powers. And we are held to only the approval standards here and acting objectively to see if the plan adheres to those approval standards there. And I believe it has come a long way from the first one to find a way where it does meet the approval standards.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. Further discussion?
Once again, I would remind my colleagues, these are approval standards that have been set, but these are also approval standards that we can modify. And I would always remind my colleagues, if there is an approval standard here that just doesn't make any sense, when we come out of this hearing, we can have the discussions about what approval standards should be set at in order to reflect our morals and values. Now, with that said, I would remind my colleagues, this is the 31st Amendment to the Pine Ridge Plan Development. And Commissioner Van Winkle, you pointed out that, a lot of change. There is a lot of density going on in the Pine Ridge north of this property. It was shown by the applicant as well. Again, I reassert, I think we asked the applicant early in the process before the board to pursue compromise with the neighbors. I do understand that there are residents who do not feel this is an appropriate compromise. I do not share that opinion, though. I think this is an appropriate compromise. I do think the applicant has gone out of their way to put forward a plan that allows them to capitalize on their property and yet comes to some sort of compromise with the neighbors. Therefore, I do have a motion to approve Pine Ridge Plan Development, 31st Amendment, Major Plan Development Amendment, because it does meet all the approval criteria as presented with the 3 conditions as presented and agreed to by the applicant. Project file is ZR 2023-002.
And I will second the motion. I know I was just reading not for the first time, but for the second time, a letter from the Honorable William Pickle that is persuasive. That's what they did, and that's why I'm seconding the motion, because this is the plan today with 38 lots on those 47 acres almost. Dramatically better than what the Planning Commission saw more than a year ago.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, colleagues, and I don't disagree. And for the public that may have a level of disappointment today, I want to assure you on both a professional and personal level that my colleagues take every single aspect of what is happening into consideration and are very thoughtful. So I appreciate both of your comments, even though I do disagree. I maintain the focus that the intent was equestrian, and this will not be equestrian. I think also, when we're talking about 152003 about public interest and enjoyment, and the public says they're not interested and aren't going to enjoy it, probably doesn't meet that criteria. But I'm just one of 3, so I will be opposed. There is a first and second on the floor. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, same sign, aye. And that does pass 2-1.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
I will say the next land use meeting public hearing will be held on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2025 at 2:30 p.m. We are adjourned.